All right. Welcome to the People Playbook podcast. We are very excited today. We have John Evans as our guest today. And John is a true industry disruptor, I like to call him. So he's an award-winning entrepreneur, founder of Everline Coatings. What started as a local pavement marketing business has grown into a 51 million gross sales system wide and is a franchise powerhouse across North America. John's known for his bold leadership, his sharp business instinct, his relentless drive to shake up a traditional industry, and he's a proud millennial franchisor, which I love seeing. A mentor to many and a guy who's just getting started, which is kind of scary along the way. So, John, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Jason. Thanks so much. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're thrilled that you came. Of course, we know some people in the organizations and in the sector, and when you agreed to come on, we were very happy to have you on as a guest and excited to have this conversation.
Well, big fan of the show, and I was able to listen to quite a few of your episodes, and just really, of course, honored to join you.
Awesome. Thanks, John. John, I want to start with a unique question, and I'm going to word this in a different way. You've been called a dragon slayer in the industry, and I want to start with, what's the biggest dragon you faced building Everline, and how did you slay it?
There's various dragons along the way. I think that the first and the biggest one was actually myself in the very beginning. I started Everline when I was 23 years old, and so you have all sorts of energy but not a ton of experience and or know-how there behind you. And I think the first 5 years of Everline, it was myself discovering and understanding the power of just how utilizing people and leading them in order to build up a scalable business. I think that making it so less on me and more on my people and growing it, being able to grow the business was a significant development there. It was kind of like once that light bulb went, it went through there, and then of course many other varying sizes and challenges along the way. And I'm a big believer in what got you here won't get you there, and so continue fighting that dragon for sure.
Yeah, great segue for this discussion. So you talked about trust there and communication, right? And when you're a young leader and you're not as experienced as some other leaders, then you have to get them to trust you, to actually buy in, to say, hey, I actually want to move forward with this leader, right?
Well, exactly. It was a great quote, I believe, by Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, and he said, a strategy is only as good as your ability to convey it and to communicate it. And while I have in my head, I have all the classic traits of being a visionary, but there's a lot of visionaries that get caught up because you can see everything clear as day in your head. It's a blessing, it's a curse, whatever it is. But to communicate that and to show people, hey, listen, what we're doing here is actually a part of a bigger picture, and there's going to be challenges and a grind and just the bumps along the way. There's going to be a lot of victories here too, but it's the ability for us to work through a lot of those challenges that we're able to grow. So I think that's been one of my natural traits or traits that I grew into or whatever it is that have helped build people along the way.
That's great stuff. I'm looking back at your past, and when you were at College Pro, so the move from College Pro to Everline, how has your leadership evolved from that jump from when you were at College Pro and then you started Everline? How did you see your leadership evolve?
For me, it was because like in running College Pro, it was a small student-run painting business. I was in school at the time, graduated school. So I knew that I could go and sell. I knew I could go and hire and train, painting crews. And it wasn't until that, the business Everline got larger that I realized and understood now I can't see everything that's happening in my business anymore. So I need to understand, how to not only train people through standardized processes and systems, but to motivate them and keep them connected to the vision and make sure that they are compensated as such and that they are motivated and understand the vision and that piece there. So I think that was one of the largest eureka moments. That it didn't happen overnight, for sure. Yeah. It happened gradually.
Yeah.
But I would say that was the biggest development piece on that front.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go back to Everline. And I just want to know how your mind was thinking and what made your mind kind of tick to say, hey, I think I can make a pavement marking business into like a massive franchise powerhouse. Like, what goes on in your mind to say, like, I know that I wouldn't look at pavement and say, wait, you know what? I think I can make a big business out of this, right? So
Yeah.
how did that whole concept come up? What went through in your mind there?
Well, originally when I started Everline, the whole concept of being a franchise was a twinkle in my eye.
Yeah.
I would say that it largely started as a standalone business for myself to run, to build and grow in Calgary. And the vision back then was to become Alberta's largest, line painting and pavement maintenance contractor. And that's all I wanted. And that's all I was happy with. And then what had happened is I have a long history in franchising. My parents were franchise owners. I was a franchisee, of course, with College Pro. I'd worked in franchises, my entry-level jobs. So I've naturally have always been very aware of the industry. I would say that as Everline was growing quite rapidly in the early years, is doubling in revenue, and I still developing as a young entrepreneur. I was 27, 28 at the time, and I reached out to a mentor of mine and I said, I'm trying to decide how and where I'm going to grow this from here. You're at a lot of inflection points. You could grow by expanding your services. You could grow corporately via hiring a general manager and opening up in a different city. But just my natural personality, I'm an aggressive expansionist, and so of course my mind wandered to, I wonder, could this be a national brand? I'm not too sure. No one's really done it. Back then, there was only one or two U.S.-based companies that had started doing it, and they actually failed. And so I was like, why did they fail? And then kind of even understanding that and reading through other case studies of it, I recognized that they hadn't quite had brought people with a background and experience and a level of mentors that I had. And so it wasn't until I went through that exercise and I got a deeper introduction into the franchisor space via the International Franchise Association and Canadian Franchise Association that I got some great mentors, and they said, you need to make sure the magic isn't you, that this isn't just a business that John Evans can run in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, in this moment in time with your skill set, that somebody can take the same thing and have the same or greater success than you ever did from a completely different background in a completely different market. So it was a lot of research, but then once we you said, okay, this might be able to be a thing, it was just really cool to go and just start slowly testing it. So it was a process, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. I love how you said it many times in that answer. You said, I went to my mentors, I went to people. Mm-hmm. And I love that in a leader, it's okay as a leader to say, you know what, I don't know if I have the answer to that. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to say, I don't know that, right? But let me go find out. And it feels like you're a very curious person that said, hey, I don't know that, but somebody else does. So let me kind of dial into them, right?
Well, exactly. Because just in my travels, I've found a lot of the challenges in businesses, even though you may have your product, your widget, your service, whatever it is you're doing, there are principles and fundamentals of business that are universal. Whether it be understanding that there's always going to be some sort of shortage of cash, people, or work, or, once you reach a certain size of an organization, there's going to be certain challenges in maintaining a certain type of culture, right? And, if you're doing acquisitions, integration of two different cultures in that sense there. And even doesn't matter what you're doing, I can go and talk with a plumbing franchise or even a restaurant franchise or even a software company. There's going to be those fundamentals that are all there. And I just really enjoy learning from those people because it's, there's all sorts of lessons that everyone had to learn. I try not to learn too many that I don't have to, that sort of thing.
It saves time, right?
Yes.
John, you spoke about systems and processes and whatnot. If I could go back and just say, hey, John, what system or process and principles did you put in place early on in setting up Everline that just fueled the growth? What did you say, hey, I need to set this up first to get this going?
I would say in our case, the very first systems that we had created was an outbound marketing system, and that was largely for myself. So we're in the B2B space, so it's very relational. It's not transactional, consultative type sales and type building there, because Everline's never walked into a market where we've just come unopposed. Somebody's painting the lines or filling the potholes, that sort of thing, and it was something that I had built just simply for myself to follow because I was coming from a franchise system. I was used to having a checklist to follow, so I built that for myself. And this is long before ChatGPT. It's so much easier now. But back then, it was much more of a longer process. And then that's what created, of course, the initial relationships and revenue coming in. And then it came down to I have too much work. I have to figure out how I'm going to train all these people. So training systems started happening. And then it gets into marketing and finance and all that sort of stuff. And you just, you go down the rabbit hole and it never ends. We're still building processes. So
Yeah,
it's
for
a
sure.
whole thing.
What was your first? What location was the first one outside of Alberta?
It was Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. So not Nigel Baxter. We were testing out. We knew Everline was working in an Albertan city of about 1.5 million people, but it wasn't until we launched in Saskatoon that we understood what it was like to grow in a small market and the level of loyalty our franchisees need to deal with. And it was a great start there for us.
And what was the year you actually said, okay, hey, we've kind of conquered Canada now. We're going across the border into the U.S. So what year was that, John?
I've originally decided we were going to try for the U.S. in July of 2020. So I got a phone call from somebody I knew on the state side, and he said, "Why aren't you in the United States yet?" And this is the middle of the pandemic. We weren't even allowed across the border yet. And I said, I think it would be really interesting to launch in the United States once we get to the living with COVID phase. So, and that's what we did. We officially launched with our first confirmation day for new franchisees in March of 2022. So it took about just about 2 years of preparation before we made the jump.
Unreal. Franchising can be rigid, as we both know, right? How do you balance structure, and processes with innovation across your locations?
So it's actually a mindset and an emphasis that we have with our people, because I look to the story of the Big Mac, actually. And the Big Mac was invented by a franchisee, and it was actively fought against by the franchisor. McDonald's said, no, stick to your system. Right? Stick to your system, stick to your system. And the franchisee kind of went rogue and said, no, this is like a really successful sandwich here, right? So I take a lot of inspiration and learning from that. There will be Big Macs. There's going to be Filet-O-Fishes. There's going to be, all that sort of stuff out there that are going to come from these brilliant entrepreneurial people. And it's always exciting to me as a franchisor to be able to take just some brilliant little nugget in one location and spread it across, over 120 of them, just like that. So, but having said that, you can't go too far there with it. You can't. Because there's a base level of brand that you have to maintain. Now, Everline's always been a very entrepreneurial, adaptable, adjustable brand. So we do allow the franchisees to mold into specialty or niche services, or go deeper in one, or not offer one and go to this one, just depending on the local market conditions. And to me, that allows the franchisees to feel much more entrepreneurial than rigid, stick with this only, here's where you are. I think just in our space, we can afford to have a little of that. So It's been going pretty well.
And I love the fact that what you just said there is basically you listen. Right? And listening it's amazing when we listen to understand and we actually hear some ideas and concepts.
I think that focusing on the partnership aspect, of having a partner type mentality with your franchisees, with your vendors, with your clients, understanding that we're all in this together here, right? Where, of course, the root issue is this line needs to be painted bright yellow or white or whatever. That's kind of the easiest part of all this. It's all the other things that need to work in order to execute that to make it easier for the clients in that case there. And I think that it's always served me well and served Everline well that we do not have a hard dictator-like with our franchise owners. A lot of franchise systems do. I'm very strong in just working out and compromising with the franchisees because we greatly respect and admire their entrepreneurial spirit. We're still an emerging brand, so we can afford some of that stuff. So
For sure.
I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, I love that. Your brand is a people first mindset, right? And when you are a people first mindset, how do you coach franchisees to lead with both heart and hustle?
Great question. It's baked actually into a lot of our systems. So it was actually because a lot of the early success of Everline was the way that I initially would go and manage and build up my crews. And, I actually, for example, there's a toolbox talk at the beginning of every shift for the crew, just for everyone to get on the same page. And it would just be a culture moment for us. We'd all get in a circle. We'd talk about what we were doing and have some laughs and, bring up some inside jokes and things like that. And then they're energized and they get out there. And then also too, Everline was growing very, very quickly. So I needed more specialized people that understood my industry in a world where there's not a ton of professional people. There's not a big pool of people that know this that you'd want to bring in line with this culture. So I have to actually go and create it. So that's where we built out our purpose statement for our staff, which is we want Everline to be considered a vehicle for personal and professional growth for our people. And it's to embrace that mindset that people feel comfortable and excited to grow as a result of that. So, and then of course with the toolbox talk piece there, we started to go and say, okay, like how do we recapture the magic? Because so I just really wrote down in the process of what I do.
Yeah.
And said, okay, at the beginning of every shift, do this. So we take those elements and we go and we say, okay, franchisee, you're coming in, you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to use our model to do so. We're telling you, you're going to run into these issues, so you need to take care of your people. And here's the mindset you need to have. And here are the most important elements of it. And we actually have exact, examples that we're able to offer because we have had franchisees that rose very quickly initially in revenue and then got stuck, capped, because they were not strong leaders or good with their people. They were not following those processes. And it caused stunted growth. We swapped out the core people that were there, and what do you know? They grow as a result.
That's crazy. Yeah, I love it. It's amazing when we actually, again, trust and communicate with people, how things get to a good spot.
Mm-hmm.
Here's one, and this is through the industry, and I've talked to people obviously before I bring on somebody as a guest, but you've been praised, and I want you to hear this because you need to hear this. You've been praised for integrity, right? And what a great word to actually be praised for. How do you operationalize that word and bring it into your business decisions every day?
Great question. I mean, it's an honor, of course, to be associated with that. I mean, we try pretty hard, so that's great that it's working here.
It's resonating, yeah.
Yeah. So there's something called in the EOS system having a proven process, and in the proven process that we've developed for Everline, we call it the core quality system. So on every single job, as long as there's a clear scope, an operations report, a clear scope from the client to the crew, so everyone's on the same page. There's an operations report, the crew is reporting back, and that there's a reach out to that client with the information of the operations report to give an update on how the job went, and then an evaluation, making sure. And to me, I say to our franchisees, if you follow the core quality system on every single job, you're going to do exactly what you said you're going to do, and you're going to operate with proactive urgency. And you just, even if there's an issue, say, painted along a wrong line, or it's in the wrong spot, or filled the wrong pothole, or whatever it is, it allows you to get ahead of it. And you go and through the evaluate portion, go and come up with a solution immediately. And I think that just that proven process that's baked in strong communication, expectation setting, and then of course execution allows us to operationalize integrity as a result of that.
Yeah, it's amazing when we just do the right thing, right?
Yeah.
And when I talk to a lot of leaders, sometimes common sense isn't so common, right? So if we just embed that into our teams, it's amazing what can happen.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it should be a very proud moment in your career. So you were the winner of Canada's top franchise, which is, let's be honest, like there's so many franchises in this country and continent. It is crazy to say you won that top award. That must just have been breathtaking for you, where you just said, this is This is outstanding. What was the moment you knew Everline was onto something really big?
Great question. It was amazing to win it in the first time. It was just really a massive validation for how we were operating, leading with intention to build strong and genuine relationships with the franchisees, to support them, to make sure that they're a success. That's always at the core root of it. And it actually, in Canada, we had a very slow, controlled growth point in testing out the model and going from there. But I would say, when I had franchisees themselves who were young guys who bought in their mid late 20s go and have major life moments and have incredible success as a result of that told me this is working and it's going to continue working. And I think that when I hear of them buying their first house, then their second house, right? For their own income variation, or having their first or second kids, and kind of going through that, to me, it provides a livelihood where they're able to thrive in their lives as a result of this. Tells me we're doing something right. So the awards are amazing. We actually hit Dynasty. We got 3 out of the last 4 years. So that told me the first 2 weren't flukes. The first one was right when we launched the United States, so we were a lot smaller.
Sure.
And then this one was pretty recently, and that was an exciting time.
Yeah, absolutely. You speak about your franchisees almost like a family, which I really enjoy hearing. You mentioned names and you mentioned relationships. That's powerful. As a millennial and a CEO, what generational strengths do you think that you've brought that give you an edge in this industry?
I think that the generational edge millennials have is we remember what it was like before really everything changed, right? When I grew up, computers were just starting to come into the classroom, and I remember the Dewey Decimal System, and I remember landline phones, things like that. And I think just that connection with the foundation of the world, of just how business was being done. It allows you to relate and understand the older generation, Gen X, and the baby boomers, and also too, you're able to keep up with and work with the Gen Zers that are starting to come in. And I think that dynamic as being part of that transition and just humanity is a secret superpower.
For sure. Did you ever look at your parents, because you said they were franchisees as well, and think, when you started your own business, did you think, I'm never doing that, or I am really grabbing onto some of those things that they did?
I think I didn't really start thinking about it that way, until, growing up, they're just mom and dad and they go to work every day. You don't really have the context. But it wasn't until my early 20s that I realized that this is the path I want to go down. It was actually an episode of Dragon's Den in season 2 when it first came out where it clicked. I was like, this is what I want to do. And then I was like, it was just kind of like this big awareness. Like, that's what my parents have been doing. I understand like this now, right?
For sure.
And being able to take it and run with it from there.
Wow. John, what if you could go back in time and the John today could give the John when he first started Everline a piece of advice? What would you say to your younger self? What would you say, hey, don't do this or keep doing this? Like, how would that conversation go?
I think it would go as such. I would say to myself, there's going to be challenging and times where it's painful, where it hurts, where you feel like you're beaten, that you've been backed into a corner, and that you're not going to be able to get yourself out of it. You get yourself out of it every single time, and you learn from it. You apply the learnings, and you go and be bigger and better from that point on. And I would say pick up some Bitcoin as well.
Yeah. and one of my favorite sayings is, "This too shall pass."
That's right.
Right, and whether it's you're at the top or in the middle or at the bottom, there's always a time where you just have to say to yourself, this too shall pass. And just know that times change, industries change, environments change, and people change as well. And if we're able to be change able and to adapt, it's amazing what we can actually conquer. Right?
100%. To be an entrepreneur, you're kind of asking for this. It's to constantly solve problems. And that's an Elon Musk quote where he says, it's staring into the abyss and eating glass all day long.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's going to be times where it sucks, and that's all right. That's part of the gig. And then, of course, there's the euphoria, a victory, the big wins, the excitement. That's awesome. But tomorrow, you get to go back at it.
I agree. You are a disruptor. Okay, so what's the next industry rule that you plan on breaking or rewriting or disrupting?
For me, it's actually going to be expanding out of Everline's, I guess, industry itself and applying a lot of the same principles to similar business services and facility services types of services there. So going, of course, having the commonality of service-based businesses with similar clients, going and taking a lot of lessons we had learned and really refined here in Everline and applying in other industries here. That's all kind of connected there. So I think that's it's going to be largely expanding what's worked here. And of course, I mean, not to have a buzzword here, but to truly understand how to navigate the advent of AI, and that the insane desire for authenticity and realness is going to grow. And I think it's starting to happen, because I don't know, I get irritated when I clearly get ChatGPT'd by somebody.
Yeah.
Or I don't know
Yeah.
if you get the same way.
Yeah,
It's
and
just
you see
like
the
you just
little-
you see the email, it's the same format and all that kind of stuff. And that to me is, I think, is going to be the next thing. So it's disrupting how being genuine and authentic in this service-based industry is going to work.
Well, John, with that, you've been more than generous with your time today, but I just know that we are going to see loads and loads and loads more from you, right? So you're a young owner, founder, CEO, leader in the industry. If I could ask you just to close us off with, can you give us any tidbits on what's to come? And if you can't, and just say, hey, stay tuned, I understand that as well. But any little inkling you can let us know.
So we, as I mentioned just a minute ago, we're going to be expanding, not only, of course, continuing to grow and build on our in our space in Everline, and to build our franchisees into multi-million-dollar businesses themselves, but it's also going to be applying a lot of the same principles that have made Everline great into those unsexy, boring businesses that no one ever really thinks about, and keep at it. So stay tuned on that.
Thank you for your time today. Again, you've been more than generous, and we're really looking forward to airing this episode because people need to hear your voice.
Hey, thanks so much, Jason. Always a pleasure. Yeah, we'll do it again sometime.
Thanks, John.
Thanks.